A Short History of Drama Part 2. Elizabethan and Restoration Theatre. These secular morality plays have direct links with Elizabethan plays. The Renaissance imposed a learned tradition, classical in depth, with themes of education, general moral problems, and secular politics. The plays had nothing to do with religion. They were examples of both comedy and tragedy. Thomas Kite, Christopher Marlowe, and William Shakespeare are the prime dramatists of this era. It was Kite who discovered how easily blank words might be converted into a useful theatrical medium, which Shakespeare used brilliantly in all his plays. Tragedy developed in the hands of Kite and Marlowe. Comedy had also proceeded beyond rustic humor, but by the 90s of the 16th century, the theatre in England was fully established, but complicated conditions governed the activities of the dramatist. The public theatre of the 16th century differed in many important ways from the modern theatre. It was open to sky without artificial lighting. The stage was a raised platform with the recess at the back supported by pillars. There were no curtains at the main platform, could be surrounded on three sides by the audience. Around the theatre there were galleries. In the 17th century, the enclosed theatre gained importance. There was increasing attention to the scenic device as theatre became private. Shakespearean era came into existence in the 16th century to the public theatre. He wrote for the contemporary theatre, manipulating the Elizabethan stage with great resource and invention. But the genius of Shakespeare should not allow the rest of the drama of his age to be obscured. Contemporary to him was Ben Jonson, a classicist, a moralist, and a reformer of drama. In comedy, Jonson's genius is found at its best and his influence was considerable. The Restoration dramatist leaned strongly upon him. Closing of theatres by the Puritans in 1642 brought this greatest of all period in the history of English drama to an end. With the civil wars, no theatre existed between 1642 to 1660. The next phase, which appeared after the Restoration, produced a very different kind of dramatic literature. Dramatists like Chapman, Thomas Middleton, Webster, and Dekker were at the forefront. When Charles II came back with the Restoration of 1660, the theatres were reopened. The Restoration comedy achieved its peculiar excellence. Drama revolved into class drama with upper-class ethos. It lasted beyond this period into the first decade of the 18th century. Comedy in the early 18th century declined into sentimentalism. It became comedy of manners. George Etheridge was its most important exponent. From such depths, the drama was rescued by Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Sheridan. With Sheridan, something of the brilliance of Restoration dialogue returned into comedy, but with more genial atmosphere. The characters were firmly presented, with clarity reminiscent of Jonson, but with no depth in the Sheridan's world, no new interpretation of human nature. In this he was nearer to Oscar Wilde than to Jonson. Modern theatre. The modern theatre, with its picture frame stage, its actresses taking female parts, its movable scenery, designed to create a visual image of the locale of each scene, and its artificial light, was developed during the Restoration period. There is clear influence of France in theatre, the audience, and the themes. The drama of the early 19th century was on the whole on the way to the decline because of many causes. The theatre was home mainly to irregular spectacle, melodrama, and farce. A simple external reason can be found in the monopoly held by the two houses, Covent Garden and Drury Lane, for the performance of serious drama. The audiences which gathered to the 19th century theatre had not the intelligence or the imagination of the Elizabethan audience. The danger in the 19th century theatre was that, above all, it was unrelated to the life of the time. The changes in the structure of society had so modified the human personality itself that a new interpretation was essential. Ibsen, the great Norwegian dramatist of the 19th century, dominates the modern drama. He developed modernist, realist, social, and psychological dramas like The Doll's House, Ghost, and An Enemy of the People. They are far more subtle in stagecraft and profound in thought than anything in the modern English theatre. But it was only George Bernard Shaw who was deeply influenced and affected by Ibsen's innovative contribution and experimentation. He was the most brilliant playwright of his time. He alone had understood the greatness of Ibsen, and he was determined that his own plays should also be a vehicle for ideas. The responsibility of elevation of the English drama to the brilliance of the Norwegian fell with Oscar Wilde and G.B. Shaw in the late 19th and early 20th century. The 20th century showed a talent in the drama with which the 19th century could not compete. H. Granville Barker, John Galsworthy, St. John Irvine were some of the playwrights who explored contemporary problems. St. John Irvine had been associated with a group of Irish dramatists whose work was normally produced in the Abbey Theatre in Dublin. Much that is best in the modern drama in English developed from this movement. One of its originators was Lady Gregory with W.B. Yeats and J.M. Synge. They were the most important dramatists of this Irish revival who used a sense of tragic irony, a violent species of humor, and a rich and highly flavored language.